Hi, I'm Drew with Magic Robot Studio, and this is Tattoo Fame, Episode 2. Magic Robot Studio is the art studio comprised of my wife, Christina Magic, and myself. And Tattoo Fame is the vlogumentary where I hope to document my progress from a tattoo novice to a famous tattoo artist. In this episode of Tattoo Fame, I want to talk about my first tattoo machine, what I've learned about tattoo machines and how tattooing works. Then I'm going to design a trash polka tattoo, and I'm also going to practice that trash polka tattoo on practice skin. So that's episode 1. I hope you enjoy this. Check out Magic Robot Studio on Facebook, also on Instagram. On Instagram, I'm going to be posting my tattoo a day, where I'll be illustrating one tattoo every day. Eventually, once I get some more practice skins in, I'll be practicing those and posting my results on Instagram as well. Also, check out my Kickstarter program, which is entitled Note to Self, Learn to Tattoo. If you contribute there, I would really appreciate it. It's going to help me get through my education in tattooing. I hope to either do an apprenticeship or to go to a tattoo institute of some sort. If you do contribute, I'm going to do any kind of artwork that you would like. I do a lot of different forms of artwork: printmaking, comic book work, graphic design, sign making, illustration, mural work, things like that. So just check us out. All the links are here. Enjoy the show. As I mentioned before, I've been an illustrator my whole life, and I went to school for illustration. I've thought about doing tattooing, but it never really appealed to me, and to be honest, as a kid I was part of a very conservative Christian background, which forbade tattooing. So in recent years I've been watching a lot of creative tattoo shows and have been thinking more and more about tattooing. My style of art lends itself to tattooing because it's representational. I'm pretty good at realism. I'm good at copying images, and I have a background in graphic design, so all those factors combined I think would be good for several styles of art. One of my favorite forms of art is abstract art and geometric art, and I think that I'll be pretty good at that. I like doing line work as well, so that's something that I want to represent in my work in the future. Once I decided I wanted to tattoo, my OCD kicked in, and the first thing I did was go on Craigslist and look for some tattoo, at the time I was calling them guns, but they're tattoo machines. And one of my buddies, Caleb Herbert, I asked him for some information by text, but before he could even get back to me, I'd already spent $100 on what I thought was a good deal on a bunch of tattoo equipment. I've learned to live with my OCD, so now I have some equipment. It's not great equipment, and to be honest, I could have done better if I just waited and learned more about it and purchased it. But I'll show you what I learned about tattooing from these tattoo machines that I purchased. We're going to talk a little bit about how tattoo machines work. One of the challenges in inkmaster is that they have to build their own tattoo machine. So I basically looked at the tattoo machine and figured out how it comes apart. It's really not that complicated. Why anybody on that show doesn't know how to build one, I don't understand. But I'll talk a little bit about the way that they're made. After that, we'll get into my first illustration, the trash polka illustration. So this is the equipment that I bought. This is all the electrical stuff. I'll break it down as much of it as I understand. This is a connector that connects the power supply to the actual tattoo machine. This is a pedal that allows you to turn the machine on with your foot. I don't even really know what this is, but I figured out that it's some form of pedal. I'm not sure if it's meant to be stepped on or if you're supposed to use your hand with that. It's kind of a strange one. That's obviously power supply. cord, and that's the power supply cord as well. Oh, I didn't know that was in there. Little diagram of a tattoo machine. Pretty much I think there's another power cord to the tattoo machine, and these are both power supplies. I thought that this one looked kind of chintzy when I first looked at it, and that this one looked like it was a better deal, but it turns out that this one's actually better than this one. I can't get this one to change its power level in an even flow up and down. I actually pulled this off and tightened this up a little bit. This is some cheap stuff. Yeah, so that's what you get for having OCD and buying something on the spur of the moment. This is the tattooing machines and various accessories. This is practice skin. It's a rubber product that's made to simulate skin so you can practice on it. I hear it's somewhat similar to the texture composition of skin. I know in the past that people that tattoo have practiced on things like melons and banana peels, stuff like that. This is tracing paper. There's no transfer paper, so that's one of the things I had to order online. I got 5 tattoo machines. These are all coil machines. There's 2 of them that are a brand name called Dragon Hawk. It's this one. And let's see, and this one. They seem to be actually fairly decent tattoo machines. This one's coming apart. I needed to put it back together, which I haven't done yet, but I'll do that. Then I got, just based on looking at the quality of the craftsmanship, another one that's semi-decent, and then 2 that are just junk. My buddy Caleb that I mentioned before, who I asked for his opinion, said that instead of giving him $100, he would have given him $20 and a kick in the ass. So I guess this is not a good deal that I got, but that's what I've got. So it'll be good for me to practice with these coil machines to start off with. I'll describe a little bit about what I've learned about tattoo machines. Now, all this information, of course, is on YouTube, so you can learn much more in depth than what I'm about to talk about. But I'll just describe in layman's terms how a tattoo machine works. I'll use this one since it seems to be the most together. So a tattoo machine, this is a coil machine. The reason for that is because these are coils. A coil is a device that allows an electrical current to travel through it, and it generates a magnetic field. So basically, when you put electricity to it, it turns into a magnet. What happens when that occurs is it pulls this down. This is called the armature. So on the back here, you have 2 studs. This stud right here goes to one side of the coil. It's separated from the body with, I assume, a piece of rubber or plastic, something like that, so it's not touching the actual body. And the other side of the coil is actually connected to the body. So when you take that power connector that has the V shape in it, you connect one side to this stud and the other side connects to the actual body. It closes the circuit. The circuit runs from this coil to this stud, through the body, through this body, through the armature. So when the magnet makes a connection, or when the circuit makes a connection, the magnet turns on and it pulls the armature down. When that happens, it breaks the connection here at that little screw coming down, which turns off the magnet and it goes back up. So that on and off sequence is what causes the armature to go up and down. And this little rubber nipple you see there, that's what the needle is attached to. That goes down through the grip here and through the head. Now, I'm not using the right terminology. Eventually I'll know all these terms by heart, but that's the basics of how it works. So those are the coil tattoo machines that I got in this purchase. There are other tattoo machines. They're called rotary machines. Rotary machines basically are just a motor that have an uneven wheel on them. The screw or the needle connects to that wheel, and as it turns, it drives it up and down. There are advantages and disadvantages of each of those. From what I've determined, rotary are becoming much more popular. Their up and down motion, their I don't even know what to call that. Anyway, their motion is much more consistent, and you can use one machine for the various effects that you need to achieve, like lines, shading, and coloring, with just one rotary machine. Whereas when you're using coils, you have to use different coils at different strengths, different spring strengths, different power levels to use for each aspect of tattooing. I also got a variety of needles. This was kind of eye-opening for me. This reminds me of when I first found out about graffiti work. When I was a kid, tried to do graffiti using regular spray cans, and I could not figure out how they made those really sharp lines and big thick lines. Well, come to find out that graffiti can has special caps that give you all these varieties of strokes when you're doing graffiti. And I basically found out when I purchased this that that's also true about tattooing. The description on the back of these describe how many needles are, or how many points, or how many needles are attached to each one of these shafts. The number of needles will vary the size of the line or the amount of ink that you can put down in one pass while shading or while filling a tattoo. So I got a large variety of tattoo needles in this package. So you got a bunch of tips. These also vary in width depending on what kind of needle you're going to be using with them. I guess one pair of gloves. I don't know what they thought when they sold this kit, but I guess they thought they were going to do one tattoo and that'd be the end of that. These are caps. These need to be disposed of each time you use them. If you think about it, when you put ink in this and you're tattooing somebody, basically it's not blood, but what is it that you contribute, babe, whenever there's two things you can give when you're giving blood? Plasma. Okay. When you think about it, when you're using tattoo ink, as you're tattooing, people's plasma or parts of their blood will end up inside the ink, so naturally you wouldn't want to keep these, otherwise you're going to be passing on bloodborne diseases to people. Got these packages of inks. I'm sure they're cheap. I doubt that I'll ever use any of these except on my practice skins, because I'm sure they're garbage. I don't even know what to call these. I know that they're for putting on inside the eye of the needle to connect them to the armature. There's two ways to connect it. You can either have a nipple on the armature and connect the needle to that nipple, and then they use rubber bands to hold the needle against the nipple, or you can use these, which apparently are a lot more difficult to use. These little O-rings are for putting tension on the spring that keeps the circuit closed on the armature. Rubber bands, of course, are for holding the needle on, like I said. Now there's different kinds of tips. This is a disposable tip because it's plastic. This is a reusable one, but of course if you're going to use something like this, you'd have to have some kind of equipment to sterilize it before you use it again. So that's all the stuff I got in this kit.
So I learned some stuff about the materials that I bought. I found out that I really like the rotary gun, or rotary machine. Still got to get used to saying that. The rotary machine is more consistent in the pressure that the needles apply. I noticed that when I was using the coil machine, that because the material I was using was so stiff, it would bog down the needles pretty easily. That's something else I learned too, is that the materials that I got, the practice skin that I got, is just garbage. It's way too tough. It's nothing like the texture of skin. It stains from just the ink being on the practice skin. It doesn't penetrate, the needles don't penetrate it very well because it's so tough. In order to make the ink penetrate it, I have to really get into it, and I have to go over it several times, which of course you could never do with somebody's skin. So the practice skin purchase was a fail. I do have this other stuff. It's a little bit more like silicone than like plastic. I'm gonna try that out next time, see if it's any better. It should be a little bit better, I think. It already feels more like practice skin, even though I purchased a bunch of those other ones. So my mistake. The rotary machine that I purchased was actually pretty cheap as well. It was only like 19 bucks. I knew it would be a piece of junk basically, but I wanted to see if it was any different, if the feel was any different, and it definitely told me that I'm probably going to go with a rotary machine when I start tattooing. Let's see, what else did I learn? I guess that's about it. Thank you for watching another episode of Tattoo Fame. Hopefully I'll have my webpage up soon. You can go there, check out some of these videos. You can help contribute to the project, either by donating to my future schooling, or if you're just interested in leaving some comments for us. If you have any suggestions for tattoos I should draw up, open to anything. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.